Hello everyone, hopefully you all are having a good week. Hopefully you all, those of you on the East Coast anyway, are doing really well with the hurricane and not in too much trouble, and hopefully no severe property damage or anything like that. I've actually been granted a telework day on Friday in anticipation for the really shitty weather that we're having for the rest of the week. So hopefully everybody comes out of that okay. Got a couple of things I need to get into in this video. This was actually originally supposed to be two separate videos, but time's a little short this week, so I said, fuck it, I'll just do it all in one. But before I get into the two main topics of this video, I'm officially now going to put my feud with my Echo Dot to an end right now. The feud will be over. She will never interrupt me again during one of my videos. And let me demonstrate how. Alexa, how do I change my wake word?
I can help you change the wake word for this device. Should we do that now?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, you can choose from Amazon, computer, or Echo. Which of these do you like?
Echo.
Okay, you can call me Echo on this device in a few seconds.
And now I can officially talk about Alexa Bliss without fear of interruption from my goddamn device. Alexa, 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 Alexa. It's not turned on. Alexa, Alexa. It's great. I can't believe it took me this long to figure it out. I'm adult. Anyway, so the feud is over. You will never hear from her ever again. She is no longer Alexa. She is now Echo. But yeah, that's great. That's just great. Makes me happy. No more interruptions from you. Feud's over. No WrestleMania match, no Hell in a Cell, none of that shit. Nope, it's over. It's just over. Anyway, there are two major things I wanted to talk about in this video, one wrestling related and one non-wrestling related. I'll get the non-wrestling related out of the way first. I'm going to be talking about my Kaiju movie reviews, which are going to be starting this week, hopefully, time permitted. Definitely by the end of the month, if something happens this week that prevents me from doing it. But the series will be called Kaiju Corner, although it's strictly not necessarily Kaiju movies. It's more broad to include movies outside of Japan as well. So giant monster movies, but Kaiju Corner just sounds better. And that'll be the name of the series. And there'll be one video a month full of reviews, probably 7 to 10 reviews per video. And there'll be one video a month leading into May of next year, which will be, the final video will be in April of next year, with the final video leading into Godzilla, King of the Monsters, which is really the main inspiration for me doing this, because that movie looks like it's going to be a huge celebration of anything and everything that is giant monster movies. And it's a Japanese property being made in America with several monsters from the past getting their first big Hollywood exposure. So it seems appropriate to go back, and I'm kind of getting bit by the giant monster bug. So I've gone back and watched so many old classic giant monster movies, some terrible ones from my childhood. So you're going to be getting a series of reviews once a month. And that's pretty much how it's going to work. Now, the movies I've selected are based largely on how they impacted me as a kid and how they related to my life. The ones that I have some sort of a special attachment to, even the bad ones. Like, there's some reason or some part of my childhood that made me go, that movie stuck with me for some reason. And the final list ended up being close to 50 movies, I think. So as you can tell, I watched a lot of giant monster movies when I was a kid from various different sources. And like I said, it's not going to be just Japanese films. It's going to be American films. There's some European films. There's some South Korea. North Korea even shows up. I think I just gave away what one of the movies is. And it's going to be a lot of fun going through all this. And in the description box, there'll be details on what each video will contain. For those of you who remember my Godzilla movie reviews from a few years ago, there was a lot more editing that went into those and a lot more work that went into those. You won't be getting that this time. It's pretty much just going to be me talking to a camera. And wherever possible, I'm going to interject behind the scenes information or information that I would pull from various sources like Wikizilla as a great source of information, maybe IMDb, maybe actually some of the books I've read. I actually just got done reading a biography on Ishiro Honda, who is the director of several Godzilla movies, including the original film, and many of Toho's science fiction projects. So a lot of his movies are going to be covered in these movie reviews, and I'm definitely going to use that as a resource for that. But basically, the whole point here is to just talk about these giant monster movies and have fun with them. The ideal way to do this would be one video per movie, but it's just not possible given my schedule. The only way I'm going to do this is if I just have one free day where I can just knock them out, just straight up just knock them out and just do one long ass video. I was even toying around with the idea of doing a live stream, but if I do that, the expectation will be that I talk to you guys and answer questions. Not that I don't mind doing that. That's pretty much what the Clash of Champions and Saturday Night's Main Event streams are for. And if I do a live stream, it'll kind of throw my reviews off because I'll have to constantly stop and answer questions, and I might lose my place or whatever. So it'll just be easier if I just have the camera on myself and just go and just upload the video. And you get to see my thoughts on various giant monster movies. It'll be fun. Now, it's an 8-part series. I've divided them up into the following ways, which will be listed in the description down below, so there's no confusion. Parts 1 and 2 are going to be about monsters around the world. So basically the monster movies outside of Japan that aren't King Kong, basically, because I'll talk about King Kong in a minute. But, you know, just pull from many, many different sources, from Hollywood to other Japanese studios to North and South Korea to European films and various other things. And that's going to be the focus of parts 1 and 2 of the series, and your imaginations are probably, those of you that know about these type of movies, your imaginations are probably running wild on what could possibly be selected for those. And a lot of famous ones, some obscure ones maybe, but whatever the case, it's going to be a lot of fun. And really the whole point of that is to show that giant monster movies had various different styles and various different ways of being presented, from the Ray Harryhausen stop-motion creatures to men in rubber suits, which was the tokusatsu way of doing things, to puppetry, to various other ways of doing it. And you had you know, in America, it was more of a cheeseball thing. In Japan, they took it very seriously. In Europe, they kind of took it seriously and always seemed to have really good actors in these movies, like Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing doesn't show up in any of the movies I reviewed, but Peter Cushing was in more like B-movie schlock than a guy as talented as him should have ever been in. But, you know, he was actually in one of the movies I watched on Mystery Science Theater, the past season that was on Netflix. And, yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Basically just reliving the monsters around the world. It's going to be kind of a potpourri, if you will. And I expect that one to be a lot of fun. Some of them are going to be very, very old movies. Most of them are going to be old. Some of them are going to be fairly new, fairly modern. So it's going to be a nice mix of everything. And that's going to be the first two episodes in September and October. Then in November and December, we are going to be, or I'm going to be focused entirely on Toho, the kings of Japanese science fiction in cinema during the 1950s and 1960s. And, you know, the menagerie of monsters that they created outside of the Godzilla series is almost unrivaled. And it's definitely going to be a lot of fun going in and talking about some of those films, and provide those of you who have only watched the Godzilla movies, provide you with answers of where certain monsters came from. Where did Manda come from? Where did Gorosaurus come from? Where did Baragon come from? Where did Varan come from? Where did Rodan and Mothra come from? How did they get their big start? Things like that. And that's going to be probably, of all the ones that I'm going to be doing, those are the two I'm most excited for, because it's like, yeah, I get to jump into the Toho films. That's going to be great. And not all of them crossed over into the Godzilla series either, so there's going to be a wide variety of different monsters and different stories that were told. Again, some of them are very, very good, and some of my favorite giant monster movies ever made. Some of them are not so good, but are going to be fun to talk about anyway. And then once we get past Toho, we're going to get into Toho's main competitor, the icon of Dai Studios, Gamera, the friend of all children, the super flying turtle, and the ton. Okay, there were 12 Gamera films in all, spanning his entire film career, with constant rumors and rumblings that another one's going to show up. They did that trailer for the 50th anniversary, which was awesome, and I was like, oh god, are we going to get another Gamera movie? And that was kind of the last we heard of it. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I'd love for Gamera to come back. Hey, Legendary Pictures, you can get your hands on the Gamera property and do Godzilla versus Gamera, you know, you can make that happen. But in January and February of next year, we're going to be covering Gamera, spanning, you know, almost as many decades as Godzilla, almost. I mean, Gamera's been around a long time and has a surprising amount of longevity, and a lot of people finally remember that plucky little turtle. It's like, you know, and weirdly, of all the giant monsters out there, he's the closest thing that the genre's ever had to a superhero, outside of like Ultraman or something like that. But he's the closest that a giant monster has been to being a superhero, more so than even Godzilla during the 70s. And it's going to be a lot of fun reliving the classic Gamera films especially. Those are a hoot. I can't wait to talk about those. And then when you get into the rebooted films like the 90s trilogy and Gamera the Brave, that kind of diversified Gamera a little bit more and gave me a little bit more to talk about than just cheesy, goofy, you know, nonsense. So I think the Gamera reviews are going to be a lot of fun to do, and I can't wait to do those. And then in March, going to be taking a slightly different approach. We're going to be moving away from movies and talking about giant monsters in television, from anime and several TV shows. I did mention that Ultraman was going to be part of this in a previous video over a year ago. I've been planning this for a really long time. Now we're finally doing it. Better late than never. But Ultraman will be part of that review series, as well as a few other surprises. And that should be a lot of fun as well, because, you know, giant monsters weren't just in the movies. They were in television as well. And actually, you know, the special effects director for the original string of Godzilla movies, E.G. Tsuburaya, he started the production company that produced Ultraman and basically created that whole, you know, that whole idea, that whole like subgenre of the superhero fights giant monster shows, whatever you want to call it. And he basically helped start that too. So Godzilla's fingerprints are kind of all over various other areas as well. So that one's going to be a lot of fun to do as well. And it's not, like I said, it's going to be cover animation, it's going to cover live action, it's going to cover I should note that Power Rangers isn't going to be part of this, because that's just such a huge thing, and I am so out of the box as far as Power Ranger goes. Outside of the original like 2 seasons of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I'm like so far out of the loop of that, and I'm like, I'm in no, I have no desire to jump into that and to get caught up on anything and all that is Power Rangers. So that won't be part of it, but I'll have a few nice surprises there. And then in April, we're going to wrap things up with the granddaddy of them all, King Kong, and all of the King Kong films that have been released featuring that classic character. You know, the original classic, the one that inspired Ray Harryhausen, inspired Godzilla, and inspired, you know, I've said before, without King Kong, there'd be no Jurassic Park. And, you know, I would love to go back and pay my respect to one of the great icons of cinema, who is King Kong, who's had a surprising amount of films, because I think people, with Kong, people only seem to know about, like the original film, obviously, the remakes, the Peter Jackson one, and even the 70s one, which I think a lot of people have even forgotten about the 70s remake, and the recent Island, Skull Island, which the only reason people remember that is because it's fairly recent. So now he's going to be facing Godzilla in 2020, but I'm getting ahead of myself. So that'll be the final part. It seems appropriate to wrap things up with such a huge icon like King Kong, but you're going to be getting those videos from me once a month. If you're interested in giant monster movies and you know, kaiju films and all that other stuff, I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. If you remember my Godzilla movie reviews from back in the day, I can't believe that was like 4 or 5 years ago. Jesus Christ, I've been doing this for too long. But they'll be done very similar vein. They'll be just like that, but without like extensive amounts of editing, because I just don't have the time to do it that way. But hopefully it'll be fun anyway. And hopefully it'll be educational for those of you interested in getting into giant monster movies. So, like I said, I plan to have the first video up. If not by the end of this week, definitely sometime next week, for sure. So, definitely want to get part 1 of the series out before September's up. So, be on the lookout for that. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to doing that. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into pro wrestling. And the main thing I wanted to talk about here is the apparent leaked card for WWE Evolution, their big pay-per-view in October, which is going to be their first all-women's pay-per-view. Apparently a format, I guess you could call it a format, or like a preliminary rough draft of a format with like a numbered list of all the segments that are going to appear on the show. And all the matches as well. And that card leaked. And I mean, I don't know if it's an official leaked card. I don't know if that's really what they're going to do. I don't even know if, like, oh shit, like somebody backstage at WWE is like, oh shit, the card leaked. Now we got to change everything. And they just do something completely different. Who knows? But for the purposes of this video, I'm reacting to this as if it is going to be the actual card. That could be completely wrong, but you know, we'll see whether it is or not. Because this pay-per-view is getting a lot of people talking, both positively and negatively. Because again, anything that stars women gets that stupid, like, you either have to like it because it has all women in it, and if you don't like it, you're a sexist. And then you have the other side of the aisle who's like, oh god, those friggin' PC fuckfaces like it? Well, fuck them, I hate it. Without even having seen it. And it's not necessarily a sexism thing, it's I hate the people that like it, so fuck them. And, you know, that's kind of what happened with Ghostbusters, although Ghostbusters was a piece of shit. That happened a little bit with Wonder Woman, although Wonder Woman was legitimately good. You know, I take everything case by case. I judge everything by the same standards. I'm not gonna, you know, I mean, I'm not opposed to them doing an all-women show. I think I've made that perfectly clear. It's like, oh, cool, you want to do that? That's fine. And actually, it achieves some of the things that I want them to do across the board, which is, I hate. I know the people that got pissed at Brock Lesnar for not defending the title at all. Are probably going to hate me saying this, but one of the benefits to not having Lesnar defend the title all the time is that when he does defend the title, it feels special. Now, I think Brock became a lazy son of a bitch, and every time he wrestled, it was just a boring, unless it was like a match like his match with AJ, which seemed to becoming, those type of matches were becoming fewer and far between. It was just Lesnar going out there and doing his shtick and getting the fuck out of town and getting paid $1 million to do practically nothing, and that was getting annoying. But, I always feel like the world title does not need to be defended at every single pay-per-view. I think it gets old. I think it devalues the title. I think it makes everything feel less special, especially if you're going to do a pay-per-view a month or more than once a month or however often WWE does these things. Now, if it's defended at every pay-per-view and you only do 4 or 5 a year, that's completely fine. You space it out, it's, no problem. You give us time to breathe, you build up to the big matches, and that's completely fine. But if you insist on doing this many pay-per-views this frequently, one thing you could do is pull out of the WCW 1997 playbook. It's like, all right, we don't want to do Hogan and Sting right away, but we've got this Savage DDP feud. We can let that main event a couple of pay-per-views, and that'll get us over while we build up Hogan and Sting. And the Savage DDP matches were great, well received, won Feud of the Year in 1997, and they got a huge buy rate on Hogan Sting when they finally did do it. They fucked up the match, but that's another topic for another time. By doing this, by doing an all-women's pay-per-view, I support it for the sheer mechanical functions. Like, oh, thank God, we're not going to get a Roman Reigns match. We're not going to get a world title match on the pay-per-view. They can actually give the stories time to breathe. They're probably not going to do that. They're probably just going to continue to spam matches on Raw and SmackDown continuously and make everything less special. But they could if they wanted to, like, okay, we're not going to have the men at the next pay-per-view, so we can spend 2 months building up to Survivor Series and make those stories really matter and not overexpose those guys. And by the time you get to Survivor Series, it might feel like a bigger deal if the world title is on the line or something along those lines. I remember when TNA was doing the Beer Money Motor City Machine Guns Best of 5 series, which was one of the best things they ever did. And they did that the whole effing show. And the tag title match that concluded that series of matches blew away everything else on the show. And they closed with Rob Van Dam and Abyss, and a lot of people said, you know, they probably should have closed with the tag match. And I kind of agree. Not that the RVD Abyss match was bad, it's just that, you know, you had like this main event match that people were really excited about with this tag match. You could have given that main event spot, and then you could probably save RVD and Abyss for some time later and allow that story to build and gestate and allow the audience time to kind of breathe on that story, and then do the tag match, which is the one they're all waiting for anyway, and the one that everybody's excited to see. So using the undercard, the quote-unquote undercard titles as main events once in a while really helps storylines flow better, I think, and really helps to make stuff mean more in the long run and not overexpose things, because again, the world title does not need to be defended at every single goddamn pay-per-view. So if you've got a big title match that you can main event a pay-per-view with, or you have a big thing that you can promote, like an all-women's pay-per-view to kind of save the world title for later, or if you have an All-X Division pay-per-view that you can do that with. Because it's really like, and I'm going to get into it when I talk about the Evolution card, but it really does remind me of when TNA did those like Destination X cards. It's very, invokes a lot of those memories. But, you know, there's a little bit of room to spread the wealth a little bit. And I think, and it, you know, Intercontinental, you know, if you do an Intercontinental title match as a pay-per-view main event, it gives those guys main event exposure. And granted, I know Seth Rollins and Dolph Ziggler, their Iron Man match wasn't the best received thing, but it gives them a little bit of a higher platform, gives them experience working in a closing spot in a main event, and potentially saves bigger stuff for later and bigger shows. So there's a benefit to doing this and not having the world title defended at every single pay-per-view. So I'm getting off that soapbox and the whole, like, it's okay to save things for later and not spam everything on every pay-per-view. So I think that's one thing that this pay-per-view really has going for it, is that it just right off the bat, it's an all-women pay-per-view. It looks different from every other show that's out there, so it stands out a little bit better. But looking over this leaked card, it very much looks like kind of a glorified Legends show. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I've made this comment before. I don't think they have enough girls on the main roster to really have a full show. So bringing back all the past stars, probably a good thing to do. Probably a good attraction to have. And hey, they put Molly Holly and Ivory on the card. I'm gonna mark out for them. You know, I'm not gonna lie. But it's, I mean, it's not the most dynamic card in the world, but I could see this being a fun show if this is what they ultimately go with, this leaked format that we got. And let's start off right from the top. All right, at number 1, we've got Rhea Ripley, Ginny, Killer Kelly, and Dakota Kai in a 4-way match for the NXT UK Women's Championship. I think I've said this before about the NXT UK stuff. I'm not a fan of that expansion. I think it dilutes NXT a little bit, and it's just more championships to follow and another brand to follow, and I just think it's WWE spreading their NXT brand a little too thin. I don't know if they have enough talents to kind of fill out its own UK brand, but again, we'll have to wait and see when that show ultimately debuts. Little surprised Toni Storm isn't in this, but she's actually in another match on the show that's also one of the bigger attractions on the show, so I guess that explains why. I would have no idea who would win this. I just kind of like, oh, that's fine. It'll be an action-packed opener, I guess. It's, again, I'm just not a fan of them having that separate UK championships when they really don't need it. But number 2 after that is a special announcement with parentheses segment written around it. That will probably be the announcement that the winner of the Women's Royal Rumble will receive the actual main event spot at WrestleMania. That's probably what it'll be, if I had to take a guess. Assuming that this leak is legit. Number 3, we have Carmella doing a talk show with the Ladies of Glow. Now, that's interesting for a couple of reasons. One, I have not watched SmackDown, so I don't know. Is Carmella doing a talk show now? Because I have not been watching SmackDown, so I don't know. And when they say Ladies of Glow, do they mean the stars of the Netflix show? Or the actual Glow from the 80s? Like some of those girls. Did they dig up like the original stars of the original Glow? That could be interesting. And hey, if they get the girls from the Netflix show, maybe, you know, Awesome Kong will make an appearance. That'd be neat. I like neat things. Then number 4, we have the Riot Squad versus Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Ivory. Ivory is literally my favorite person in that whole setup. Because it's like, I mean, Sasha Banks and Bayley have just been destroyed by horrible booking. Horrible booking. I'm a little surprised that Sasha and Bayley aren't in the tag title match, but that's probably for the best. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm more excited for Ivory than literally anything else in that match. Anyway, moving right along, it's the match that has Toni Storm in it. So I guess I don't need to watch the Mae Young Classic now. There is a spoiler here. I probably should have prefaced this by saying that, but whatever. Okay, so the finals of the Mae Young Classic, spoiler, is set to be Toni Storm versus, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation here, Io Shirai, who I know more closely as one of the members of the Black Lotus tribe, the Black Lotus tribe from Lucha Underground. So yeah, they probably, I haven't looked at the brackets for the Mae Young Classic, to be perfectly honest, but based on that, I think they picked two pretty good girls to close out the tournament. So that could be solid. That could be a solid match. Does the winner of the Mae Young Classic get anything? Get like a title shot or anything? I'd be curious to know like what that is. But anyway, then number 6, we have a 20-women battle royal with the winner facing Kairi Sane for the NXT Women's Championship. You would think that would be the opener, but oh well. Do what All In did and put it on the pre-show. But anyway, yeah, I mean, I could see Shayna Baszler winning that. I could see Bianca Belair winning that. I could see maybe Molly Holly getting a nod there or something. That they'll probably put a few more like the legends into that as well. Probably a lot of the Mae Young Classic girls that maybe Madison Rayne will be in it, and some of the other girls that they picked up for the Mae Young Classic this year. So yeah, it'll be a battle royal. It'll be fine for that. Then number 7, we have Asuka versus Ember Moon. Now that one's interesting because I like their matches in NXT. But I have absolutely no idea how they've been handling Ember Moon on TV since she debuted. I have seen virtually nothing since WrestleMania with Ember Moon. So I don't know if she could be mad over it right now, and I just don't know it. Asuka, I feel, lost a lot of mystique after losing at Mania and them doing a poor job with a follow-up. And Asuka has gone down to feeling like a normal girl, like a normal lady wrestler, when she should be like kind of the Undertaker of the women's division. But I mean, their matches in NXT were good, so I think this one could be good as well. I think those matches were also good because Asuka had a lot of mystique to her, and Ember Moon had gotten over pretty big in NXT, and I don't know if that's the case now on the main roster, but we'll see. Number 8, we've got Naomi taking on Melina. That's fascinating because I didn't think anybody liked Melina enough to want to bring her back. I mean, she seems to get heat everywhere she goes. Yeah. Okay, moving on from there. Number 9, we've got Mickie James versus Lita. That's, again, the whole Legends card idea. That looks like something straight out of a Legends card, where it's like you get like the two veterans going at it. They worked a bit back in the day when Mickie was fairly new to the company, so this is kind of a return to that era. I think the match could be really good. I think Mickie is, at least the last time I saw her, she was still in really good like ring shape and could still work and looked pretty good. And you know, she's my girl. She's one of my big wrestling crushes. Lita, all I'm going to ask is please don't do anything that could potentially break your neck. If she does the moonsault, I'll cringe. Because she looked like, when she did it at the Royal Rumble, she almost didn't get all the way over, and I almost died a little inside because it's like, she's going to kill herself one day. Every time I look at Lita, I think of that match she had with Trish where they were given the main event spot on Raw. Great, fantastic match, but that one spot where she does a suicide dive and she kind of like bends, she looks like she landed on her face and just kind of bends forward, and it's like, Jesus, that girl is gonna die one day and I don't want that to happen. So I think that match will be fine. Just Lita, please don't do anything crazy. I'm begging you. I don't want to watch you die. The number 10, we have Kairi Sane taking on the winner of the Battle Royal for the NXT Women's Championship. Again, depending on who it is, that match could be good. Then number 11, we have the interesting little attraction there with Alexa Bliss. Is my echo going off? No, it's not. I can say Alexa's name now. Yay. Alexa Bliss versus Trish Stratus. That'll be an interesting old versus new type of match. And again, the whole like legend show idea. This is the type of match you'd expect to see on something like that. Kind of the old star versus the new star. So I think that could be fun. Then we've got Alicia Fox and Kelly Kelly. Okay. They got Kelly back. That's cute. Versus the Iconics, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay. Versus Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville. Versus Beth Phoenix and Natalya for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship. God damn it, WWE is too many belts. All right, I mean, they've got too many belts. That's all I'll say about it. But, yeah, I mean, looking at that, I would think, assuming that's the match they're going to do, and the fact that, like, the Bellas aren't in it, and Sasha and Bayley aren't in it, I would think that, okay, the Iconics are probably going to win the titles, if I had to venture a guess. But we shall see. And, you know, to be fair, as far as having a women's tag division goes, they've got the Iconics, they've got the Riot Squad, they've got Bayley and Sasha, they've got, what was the other one I was thinking of? That other faction whose name I can't remember right now. The one that Mandy and Sonya were with Paige, I guess. You know, so they've got teams basically. Not a lot of teams, but they've got teams. So maybe those titles won't be completely useless. I just don't like that WWE is way too many belts. I mean, they're making the NWA look somewhat like modest and simple with all the belts that they keep adding. It's getting a little ridiculous. You know, back in my day, god damn it, back in my day, you had 3 titles, and that was it. That's all you needed. I know, I sound like an old man yelling at the sky. It's fine. But anyway, so that match is happening. And then really, I guess our 2 main events are the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships. Becky Lynch challenging Charlotte Flair. I actually, my last video was all about this, where it's kind of like, I can't believe how tone deaf the WWE is, that they can't recognize that Becky Lynch should totally be the face in this situation. But no, they want to turn Charlotte into the next Roman Reigns, which is a terrible thing to do for Charlotte. But whatever. And then we've got what will probably be the main event, at least it is on this chart. Nikki Bella challenging Ronda Rousey for the Raw Women's title. That's their main event, guys. Okay. All right. I thought her and Cena broke up. I thought that, like, that influence would be gone. And again, I would have expected the Bellas to be in the tag title match. Maybe Brie might win the Battle Royal and get the NXT title shot against Kairi Sane and then lose there, so who knows. But anyway, yeah, so that's the card. Like I said, it looks like kind of a legend show, but it looks like it could be fun too, so I'm not... I think I've seen online some people are like, oh my god, that card looks terrible. I'm like, you know, it could be worse. I've seen worse cards with men on it. So it's like, yeah, you know, I could see that card working. It might not work. It might be a disaster. I don't know, but... you know, I'm still, like, kind of interested in checking it out. And, you know, if they get Ivory and Molly on the show, it's like, yeah, I like Ivory and Molly. You know, I'll watch it for them. So, yeah, those are basically my thoughts on the leaked card for WWE Evolution. If that's ultimately the final card, like I said, on paper, that doesn't look like a train wreck waiting to happen, but... who knows? Who knows? I mean, I didn't think Backlash was going to be that bad this year, and it was, whew, boy, was it bad. But yeah, that's all my thoughts on WWE Evolution up to this point. Again, we'll have more details as the weeks and months go on. Actually, I guess just weeks, because the pay-per-view is happening in October, so I'll definitely have more to say as we get closer to that pay-per-view. Hell in a Cell is happening this Sunday. Do I even want to talk about that? Do I even want to do a preview for Hell in a Cell? I can't... I don't even know what the card is. I haven't even been watching. Let's pull up the card. I'll just go over it. Why not? While I'm here, I might as well. Okay... All right, we've got Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. I hope to God Brie Bella doesn't try to do any more suicide dives. I did see that clip on Botchamania. That was Although, classic of Botchamania to use the Daffy Duck yoinks and away. That was awesome, and I really appreciated that. Robin Hood Daffy is one of my personal favorite Looney Tunes shorts. But anyway, so we've got Daniel Bryan and Brie Bella versus The Miz and Maurice. We've got The New Day challenging Rusev and Aiden English for the SmackDown Tag Titles. We've got Roman Reigns versus Braun Strowman in a Hell in a Cell match for the Universal title with Mick Foley as special guest enforcer. The last time that Mick Foley was used as a special guest referee in a Hell in a Cell match, it was because nobody gave a shit. And that was the Kevin Nash Triple H match from 2003. They literally added Foley to that match because no one cared about Nash challenging Triple H. We also have Ronda Rousey versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title in a rematch from SummerSlam. We got Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton in a Hell in a Cell match. People told me that feud is good. I haven't watched any of it. I hope to God Hardy doesn't dive off the cell. Jesus Christ, he's gonna swanton off the cell because he's a crazy son of a bitch. We've got Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch for the SmackDown Women's title. Maybe Becky will win here, and then Charlotte will win the title back at Evolution. Who knows? I don't know. We've got Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Seth and Dolph, they're kind of like what Bulldog and Warlord were in '91. They're just facing each other at every single pay-per-view, it seems. And for the WWE title, I missed it. For the WWE title, we've got AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe. Not a Hell in a Cell match, which is probably good. So yeah, yeah. I mean, again, it's not a terrible card. I don't know if I want to spend my Sunday night watching it. We'll see. It'll be a game day decision. Depends on, Giants and Cowboys the Sunday night game? Because now I'm thinking, like, if the Giants are the Sunday night game, that kind of makes the decision even harder, because it's like, okay, do I want to watch the Giants play, or do I just want to avoid that potential train wreck altogether? I mean, okay, in week 1 against the Jags, who have, arguably at this point, probably the best defense in the NFL. I didn't think the Giants played horribly. There were some self-inflicted mistakes that needed to be avoided. Eric Flowers is utter trash, completely terrible. But I didn't think the Giants embarrassed themselves. So I'm kind of like, yeah, we lost, but it wasn't like an embarrassing loss. Saquon had a few plays where he made something out of nothing. The receivers looked like they were playing really well. Odell playing like he wants to earn that top receiver money, which good. We're paying you that much. You better play. I better never see him drop another ball again. That's Jesus Christ. And our defense completely shut out their offense in the second half. So our defense, for the most part, played well. Maybe the Giants will be okay. In defeat, I didn't think they looked embarrassing. But, after last season, you kind of want to see them win to kind of reassure some of the fans' faith in them, and that's not what we got on Sunday. So, but again, we'll see. I think the Cowboys would be a better barometer, because the Cowboys didn't look that great on Sunday either. So it's like, all right, if we struggle against them or we lose to them, then I know it's like, oh, the Giants aren't that good. So, but again, we shall see. It'll be a very interesting season, shall we say? But Saquon Barkley, my man, looks like he was the draft pick I wanted. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of upside to that kid, and I'm really happy with him already. And again, a lot of it is just him kind of looking at plays and making something out of nothing, because our O-line is still not great, and he was able to make some pretty big plays, especially late in the game. So, I mean, when we got hit with the pick 6, where Eli got hit as he threw it because Eric Flowers fucked up on his block, I thought the game was over right there, and then Saquon had his huge touchdown run. It's like, oh, we're right back in it. Okay, so we weren't really out of it until the very end, until the muff punt happened, which, if I were a coach in the NFL, I would be the most boring motherfucker on the planet. I would literally pull my special teams aside on every play, and I'm like, you better fair catch it on every single goddamn fucking punt return. Every single goddamn time. And if you go against my wishes and you run with it, you better fucking score. Otherwise, I'm going to punish you like nobody's fucking business, because I guess that's the cybersecurity part of me, part of my brain, where it's like, you minimize risk and control the situation. If you run out on a punt return, anything can happen, and there's a lot of variables, and things can go horribly wrong. Opens it up for penalties. It opens it up for a turnover. Just so many things can potentially go wrong. I would just feel better. Just fair catch it. Just fair catch it. You don't have to run with it. Fair catch it. Have faith in the offense. Control the situation. Keep as much control within our side as possible. But anyway, that's my football knowledge and my football advice for the week. But yeah, Hell in a Cell's happening this Sunday. Don't really have a whole lot to say about it, to be perfectly honest, but I might watch it. I might not. Who knows? But yeah, hopefully you all enjoy the rest of your week. Be on the lookout for my first Kaiju movie review. That's going to be coming out shortly. Again, I'm going to try to get it up by Friday. That's the goal. But really, it just depends on whether or not life will permit that. So we shall see. But for right now, hopefully you all stay safe in the hurricane, those of you on the East Coast. Hopefully everyone's doing well with that. And hopefully you all enjoy the rest of your week. But that's all I have for you now. So peace out, everybody.